Meetup number 64. Hope you're all well this evening. Are we all well? Yes? Yes? Good, good. We're starting on time as usual. So the start time is 6:15, everyone knows, yes? I know we say 6, but that's just to get everybody here and settled in, so normally 6. Yeah. So just a big thank you to our sponsors. So our sponsors have, we've obviously built this up over the years, and our sponsors have helped us to make this into a better event, a more engaging event, so thank you to all of our sponsors. Has everyone heard of all of these? Yes? Yeah? Yes. Using all of them? Yes? Most? Cool, so today is our 6th-year anniversary, so PolarSeven tonight, we've laid on a couple of drones for everyone, and a 6.
I thought you're talking about me.
And we're giving away the 6 as well. So we've got 2 drones. So at the end of the evening, we'll be doing a draw for those. Have you all signed in? Do you all have a sticker? At the end of the night, we'll do a draw for the drones. Yeah? Cool. Tonight, we have a lightning talk from David and Vinci, who are from PolarSeven. And then we have got a talk from Shirlesh from Freshworks. Shirlesh, where are you? Here yet? Okay. Is he not here yet? Okay, cool. He'll be here soon. And if not, then we have Peter Gordon from Sophos who's speaking as well. So thank you for those talks tonight about securing traffic leaving a VPC. So looking forward to that. So up first we have David and Vinci, who are going to give us a lightning talk about some of the new services on AWS. Take it away, David. Thank you.
Thanks, Daryl.
No worries.
Okay, so I will be introducing some new services from AWS and some improvements to existing services. Then I'll give a more quick-ish talk about an introduction really to AMI's, Amazon Machine Images. So there's a couple of new services been announced, Amazon Macy and AWS Glue, and these are all to do with data. One, security, and one making sense of your data. Amazon Macy is using machine learning to discover, and classify, and protect sensitive data. Now, currently it's only available in the east and west regions of the US, and currently the only data stores that we look at is S3. But you can imagine once that gets extended and extend to big data, this will be very, very useful. So what it will do is it will go in and a bit of a setup beforehand, but it will examine all your data in S3 and will look for specific things and will look for specific types of data. So it will look for things like PII, which is personal identification information, particularly things like social security numbers in the US. So it is US centric. But things like passwords, email addresses, all those sorts of things. You can look for those very specific things, or look more generally at files that are like code, or it's an SQL dump, etc., etc. And because it's machine learning, it'll start to evaluate patterns of behavior. So when there's anomalies in that patterns of behavior, you can set it up to give you notifications. Now that is particularly useful for internal threats. It's not just external threats. So when there's a pattern of behavior, somebody who is accessing data that they don't normally access, then that will be, you can set up a notification for that. There's also a dashboard which will show you some graphs and all sorts of things you can see to visualize your data, so data is no longer black. AWS Glue is it's serverless, and it's an ETL, extract, transform, and load. So what this will do, say you've got a data store, say you've got Redshift, and you've got RDS databases, S3, and also it's JBDC compliant, so you could have a data store in-house as well. So we can go and access that. So what it does is, they have these things called crawlers, and crawlers will go off and have a look at all your data, and they'll gather metadata about the data and put that into a big metadata catalog for you. And then the next thing it will do, it will write Python scripts for you automatically, the actual ETL part of it, and then it can go into using your catalog, and get your data and then put it into Redshift. And then make tables in Redshift, and then you can go and examine the data in Redshift. That's also sounds like a very powerful tool. As I said, it's serverless, so you only pay, obviously we all know that serverless doesn't mean there's no computers running. There's a computer running somewhere, but you don't have to worry about that. You only pay for when the task that you're using is actually running. The rest of the time you don't have to worry about it. So all the resources that it would use, like EMR or Redshift, or it'll figure all that stuff out for itself. You don't have to worry about that. Let's have a quick look at CloudTrail. CloudTrail, as you know, you would set CloudTrail up. You have to actually set it up first, create your trails, and then you can track all the events that happen within your AWS infrastructure. Well, now that is turned on by default, and you'll get 7 days by default, and you can view that data through console. Now, if you want to do something more fancy, you'll still do the trails yourself. And EFS has encryption at rest. Now, all you need to do with this is when you go to create an EFS volume, you just go click and turn it on. Now, I don't think you can actually encrypt an already existing volume. You need to create a volume and then copy your data into it if that's what you want to do. So that's what's new. So we'll have a quick look at what Amazon Machine Images are. So basically it's a package, a template that you use to create an instance. But it's a bit of the chicken and the egg as well, because you can use an instance to then create an AMI, so it's circular. So it creates the root volume, and around that you'll have launch permissions. That means who can actually do it, which accounts. You can allow other accounts to run your AMIs, or you can make them particularly private, or you can make them public. And then you have to decide what device you're going to use. We're not going to go into any detail on that, but it's going to be Instant Store or EBS. So this is basically, you keep coming back to this life cycle of an AMI. So here is, it's either S3 or somewhere else the information comes from. It creates your image, and from that image you can then launch an instance. Or you can copy it as well. And you might say, well, why would you want to copy it? There's some good reasons for that. First reason is an AMI is region specific. So you cannot move an AMI to another region, but you can copy it. When you copy it, you specify another region, voila. And it'll come up, obviously it will come up with a different ARM or ARN or Amazon resource name. So that's how you can move your an AMI into another region. Also, you can now encrypt root volumes. Now you might ask, how do you do that? And the answer is quite easily. You come back to this, you do a copy. When you copy, you go to tick for encrypt, and that's it, it's done. So the AMI that then gets, your copy of your AMI is encrypted. Now the way that works is that it decrypts it before it goes into memory. So in memory is unencrypted, but all the rest of the time it's actually encrypted. So from an AMI, you can create an instance. From an instance, you can create another AMI, and onward and onward. Now, when you're looking at setting up your instances, you would obviously use an AMI to create an instance, and then you might go, oh, I want to add my applications and all the other settings. And then from that, you can create an AMI, and it's all set up ready to go. And that's what they call baking. Now, Vinci will give a little, he will focus his talk on some aspects of frying, which is a different way of doing this. So the baking has advantages over frying for certain things, and frying has advantages as well. Depends what you want to do. Baking makes the instance time to come up very quick. But of course, you're stuck. If you want to have a version change or anything, you've got to go back in and create another one. Now, to create AMIs, you can create an AMI. You can use something like Packer by HashiCorp. What Packer will do for you is that you just create a configuration file and you go plonk, and it goes off and builds that AMI, the instance for you in its own VPC, does all that, and then comes back, gets rid of all that, and you ended up with an AMI. So you don't have to create the instance yourself to create the AMI. So using something like Packer can make life a little bit easier. You see, Amazon Linux AMI, which is the one that we use most of the time, there's a lot of operating systems you can get AMIs for. One of the issues you do run up against is security patches. So if you create an AMI, you get an AMI, you create an instance, and that instance sits there for yonks, which it does in some cases, then you need to update your security patches. If you're using auto-scaling groups and the instances are cycling quite often, then every time that the first boot of an instance, Yum security update will run. So if you're not cycling your instances, you may need to go and handle that yourself. Amazon will bring out a new AMI about once every 3 months. Then you can do your own rolling updates as you go along. So keeping on top of this can sometimes be, take a little bit of work. And last but not least, virtualization types. Now, these days the HVM is more prevalent. PV is an older type of virtualization type. And the only reason I bring this up, sometimes you might be using an old AMI and you decide, I'm going to upgrade my instances to an M4 large, because that's a growing thing now. So you go and fire it up and you get an error, wrong virtualization type, and that's exactly what it'll be. It'll be this. So you have to go back and create your AMI again from using a fresh AMI to start with, which will have HVM on it. So the difference is that it's actually in the way that it boots. So you can't use some for the PV. You can't use the newer types of instances. And I think even something like Windows, everything in PV. It's all HVM. And I've already explained as you can see here, copying an AMI, you've got your region, and here you've got encryption. That's how easy it is to encrypt an AMI. Right. Now, I'll now hand you over to Vinci. Vinci's going to talk about frying. I mentioned a little bit about baking, but I mean, there was an awful lot to talk about with all these things. It's very hard to sort of filter out all the information that you don't want to share. So I'll stop and hand over to Vinci.
Thank you, David. Sorry,
any questions?
No? Okay, did we find this useful? I know this is more introductory, but last month we got a lot of people who said yes, they wanted more of the introductory stuff. Yeah, useful? Keep this going? Yeah, keep it going every month? Yeah? Good stuff. Okay, thank you very much, David. Very good. Vinci. No question.
The AMI has to be used as a Docker container.
Sorry?
Amazon AMI has released as a Docker container. Amazon EC2.
Does Amazon AMI have a Docker container?
Docker container now.
Well, you can set that up if you wanted to and create your own AMI.
Yeah, no, I'm not any usage of this Amazon Docker container.
Oh, I think the Linux AMI comes with Docker, doesn't it?
Yes.
By default, yeah. The doc, not.
So if you want to use it for ECS service, you gotta there's a registry service for ECS. So when you want to use the ECS service, you gotta create an image using Docker, run in your local system, and then you upload the image to the ECS registry system, and you deal with and communicate with the registry system from the ECS service. So these two are different services: ECS and registry service. Okay.
I can create my own from this.
Yeah, you create your own, upload there, and then you communicate every time when you launch your task definition and the other the cluster. You communicate with the registry service to extract the image.
The Docker agent is installed by default on Linux AMIs.
You can choose. You can choose it. Yeah.
Cool.
Need to install it, okay.
Cool, thank you. If you got more details on that, you can come up and talk to
Yeah.
Sam around that. And Vinci, off you go. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. So basically, what I'm going to talk today is not really all about frying, but if you guys, well, it's part of frying, but it's not like frying overview. Very specifically, if you actually are, one of the infrastructure coder, so you might be able to get yourself familiar with CloudFormation. And so basically, when you build a stack with CloudFormation templates, you've got multiple choices to bootstrap a service. So one of the options is user data, and you actually have a lot of CF and prefix services as helper scripts. So basically, I'm going to talk about these helper scripts today. Yeah, they're part of the frying tools, but it's not really a frying. So CF and init, it's a very good alternative to user data. So how many of you have been using user data? Quite a few. So user data, you actually can incorporate PowerShell or shell script into that section. So the pros and cons, you can actually include the individual scripts, but they are not divided into sections, and they are not very well organized. But by using CF and init, you actually can create different sections. Say, I use this section to change the system time, or use another section to set the host name, and use another section to bootstrap one particular software services. And then for each section, you can designate where's the file location, what is the permission, and what is the body of the script. So it's very manageable. And if you look at this, well, this template is actually written by JSON, but actually you can come up with similar script with YAML. And also you can managing the start-stop service if you're using Linux, and you can designate if you want the service to be started at boot time for each reboot, or by default you want that service to be disabled. And you also can create a lot of other segments, as I mentioned, to better manage. And best of best, you can have a log of CF and in itself. So you can have those logs for user data and CF init. So usually what you do is you call CF init as a helper script in your user data, and you can control which script to execute. And then you'll get 2 log files, one for user data, one for CF init. It's very handy for troubleshooting, and you can potentially push that log into CloudWatch. So let's say if there's a bug in terms of bootstrapping process, then you can go to CloudWatch log without having to log into the instance to troubleshoot bootstrapping issues. And the CF and init metadata is in the form, if you talk about resource, it's actually metadata in the form of CloudFormation init. So the second helper script is CF and signal. So sometimes you initiate a stack, but there are some conditions you need to make sure that software service is properly provisioned before you mark that stack as successful. Because otherwise, CloudFormation, if you already run script in the market as successful, but you may have other dependencies, such as a very specific software service need to be running. So you can actually hook a wait condition on top of that. Say you call CF and signal, and then when the service is fully provisioned and is running successfully, then you can mark a signal will be sent to CloudFormation and mark the stack as successful. So this is part of user data. You can call CF and signal, and you can associate with that with the wait handle, which is another resource. And the wait handle can be customized to any of the software service that you're waiting for. Can be a software service or can be a running EC2 instance. CFN Hub is actually a hookup service. You can
put up some triggers, say, because some of the CFA init is only run once when this instance being created. But think about a use case, say, all right, I update the stack. The stack is already running, but I just update the stack in terms of the metadata. And then you can trigger, potentially can trigger the, let's say it's a lamp stack. The instance been running for 2 months. Now you make some modification to the metadata, and you want the PHP version to be upgraded, or you want WordPress to be upgraded. Then without shutting the instance down, killing the instance, you can trigger the metadata change to run the CFA init bootstrapping code again to install the latest version of WordPress without having to bring the system down. CFN get metadata. So one of the challenges when I first practiced with the CFN init is you come up with the stack with the template, but on the instance you can't see the metadata. I mean, you can't see what's in the script. So until recently, I just figured out, oh, there's a way of doing that. If you call this service, CFN get metadata, actually can redirect the input of the body of CFN init into a standard output. So you can troubleshoot, or you can log, make it a part of the log file, or do whatever you want. So it's facilitating the troubleshooting. So these are very good services, AWS pre-installed on the Amazon Linux AMI. Well, this is an interesting one. Some people were laughing about frying, baking. Every time we talk to customers, some people are confused about frying versus baking. And I kind of summarize quickly with these two models. So by baking all the software artifacts into a ANMI, it's best for auto-scaling, because if your business requires a very elastic environment, you probably have very short window until you get more resources being provisioned. The AMI will be the quickest, because otherwise the frying procedure can be depending on very specific downloading or installing process. It's definitely longer than AMI.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you mind to define really quick what baking and frying is? I might have missed it, but yeah, I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, sure. Baking basically means your instance is actually launched from an AMI. And AMI in the traditional world virtualization is actually a golden image. So you bring the instance exactly the same configuration as the image. And frying, on the other hand, you probably have a base image with blank OS, and then you install PHP, install WordPress, you install Java, and then you install your application code, download it from Git, and downloading, extracting, decompressing, and make configuration changes. So that takes a while.
So the frying part, it's building it as you launch it.
Yes, on the wrong time. So if you have an auto-scaling group, if you're frying, every instance will, kind of building from scratch. But definitely you can do a hybrid mode. Say, if you're pretty sure 80% of the content's not going to change, you can bake that, and on top of that you can fry.
If you're using Packer would do baking. It builds it all into the AMI.
Yeah. So it really depends on your use case. There's no straight answer which one's better. But considering the speed and the stability, say baking is pretty stable because it's pre-launched, right?
Because
so you'll get.
Can't you get a bit of both? Like, I mean,
yeah,
baking.
hybrid.
I mean, okay. Yeah, because I mean, the template itself it doesn't have to be just a base operating system. It could be a base operating system.
Exactly.
A lot of utility, and then you can just add more on
top. And some steps in the frying procedure is very fragile. So one example is some organization they use some Git account which will expire, and then the whole thing is broken. You don't get application code. In the sense, in the event of getting higher workload, it's unacceptable, right? It's broken. And flexibility, it really depends. If you release the software every day, baking an AMI every day is just overkill. So maybe a hybrid mode is something makes sense. So say you don't really require a zero frying time. You can bake 80% and fry the rest 20%.
What would you use fry for auto scaling? Because the problem is that, say you've got 3 already running and then you create another one, 4th one, because the load's high. The 4th one may have a different user experience to the other 3, in which case the user's going to be terribly confused.
That's another challenge, the inconsistency between the new instance and the old instance. So it really depending on how you design the infrastructure, and because the diversity of the application, there's no straight answer. All right, so I guess I'll keep the time, and if you guys have interesting more discussion, feel free to reach me or any other PolarSeven staff, and bon appetit.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Richie. So useful? Yes? Yeah, worthwhile? More of that as well? Okay, cool. So again, remember, this meetup is, it's interactive. We want you guys to share with us what you think is good, and then we'll line up talks around those topics the next month. Yeah? So cool. So up next, I'm going in the wrong direction. Hang on. Wait. You want to see that again? Okay, then versus frying, we all got it? Yeah? Cool. Good stuff. So up now we have Shrilesh from FreshWorks Australia. I think he's turned up. Good work. You're here now. Yes, so thank you very much. Shrilesh, I'll just hand over to you. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. So, baking, frying, coming from that, I still, prefer frying because I just don't get baking and frying in this instance. So, quick background. So, I'm from FreshWorks. I lead the operations here in Australia. We're at Macquarie Park. So, a little about us later towards the end of the slides. But what I'm here to do basically is share with you a story of a DevOps team, very much a startup. 5 years ago, who began 5 years ago, very much with the, get it out, make it better mentality that all startups have. So I'm trying to, share a bit of their story and see how FreshService, which is a service desk software, try to manage things for them. Hopefully I don't end up, selling my wares too much, but anyway, let's see how we go. So yeah, this Chargebee, quickly disclaimer. So FreshWorks founder also is an advisor at Chargebee. Okay, so Chargebee is a company that helps recurring and subscription business for people, SaaS players like us, for example, FreshWorks. So we use Chargebee, of course. So what I'm going to share today is about a team that tried to manage their changes, their releases via email.
Can we hear? Good.
Yeah, let me know if you're okay. Yep. So via email, via flowcharts, Trello cards, and then what happened is they suddenly were told that they need to be PCI compliant. Obviously, taking up credit card details, you need to be PCI compliant, right? So that opened up a whole can of worms, right? So, and just about around that time, they also began using FreshService for managing the simple incidents. For example, CloudWatch alerts when they come into their FreshService service, their system. If it's beyond a certain threshold, they do X, Y, Z. So they were managing a few incidents out of their service desk system, which is FreshService. But then when they went into PCI compliance, that opened up a whole lot of worms, and hopefully that's what I'll share more in detail right now. So for those of you who would like to use Chargebee, well, these are the supported libraries, and I picked up those influential payment providers here in Australia, and we actually use WorldPay along with Chargebee. So yeah, PCI compliance. Now, for them what it meant is a whole lot of audits had to be done, and it could be quarterly, it could be monthly. Anyone could request access. So for example, this particular firewall, how many people have access to it, who's got access to it. So a lot of questions that could come on the fly. And along with this whole topic of going from chaos to order. So the two, now that having spoken to Chargebee a number of times before this presentation, right? So one aspect of it is managing things better. The other aspect of it is compliance. Having a system that you can immediately access and see audit trails, and that's how FreshService gets done. So the whole, like I said, they were now set into PCI compliance mode, and they didn't know where to start. So they quickly had an external agency consultant tell them that these are various processes, but you'd have to present a record, for example, of how many users have access to your DevOps environment, right? And how many of them access these over the past 6 months. So sample questions were put to them, and that's when they realized that within FreshService being a total ITIL platform, so you could have incidents, those could be linked to problems in the environment, linked to changes to be done so that problems can be prevented, and then those actually linked to releases. So the whole ITIL process was there within FreshService. So they started building upon the FreshService to start adhering to these PCI compliance norms. So just to give you an example, so there were times when a release manager would need to sit with the person who's got access to the DevOps environment, and for a whole hour they deliberate into how to go about doing things. Now today, all that is just a single user interface. The release manager is supposed to, well, he can't get away with not providing a rollout plan, a backup plan. So all of that, the DevOps manager knows what to do when. So that whole process of 1 hour sitting with the DevOps manager, that by itself is not there. Like I said, the whole ITIL process being a FreshService. So here's a quick dashboard of everything that happens within the DevOps environment. So it could be tickets from CloudWatch, maybe tickets from PagerDuty, Splunk, all of those continuously being racked up, as a dashboard activity, almost like a Facebook feed. And incidents, so I'm hoping you can see this, right? So version requests from engineers, Splunk alerts, now other alerts via API, so all of that being captured in one single ticket dashboard. And then, so let me just quickly get you. So this is a form that every single release manager or every single change manager has to fill out before they can actually access or rather request for a change in the DevOps environment. Now that every single detail is being captured, so all of these can be reported via fields. So anytime an audit is done asking whether how many releases came to you after it was verified by QA, your DevOps manager is easily able to say that. Let's go back to that screen. So once that form's filled up, it comes in as a service request, and all of those details right there. Most of the things that I wouldn't know. So whether it's got to be merged to which branch, right? What's the fix and features associated with that particular release build? All of that is presented in that service request from the form. And then what the change manager does is creates a change ticket, taking details from whatever the release managers put in there. So only relevant details, and then put in a reason for change, the impact, the rollout plans, the backup plan. So all of these before, so a change manager cannot provide a change ticket without filling in all these details. So very much, it's by virtue of them using the tool, they are being compliant with the ways that PCI needed to be. So from that change request, they tie that to a release ticket, and what that'll carry over, so that the change, the tasks associated, the CIs associated, the activities, all of that form, and then you make a build plan and a test plan. So all of that very much purely just from using a system, and they're able to have enough records to audit from. So today they support 50 currencies, of which, for example, we use 5 different currencies and accept payments from around 150 countries. They're today having 5,000 customers, 50 countries, and because of the whole tool, they're also now into SOC 2 compliance, having done already the SOC 1 compliance. So a bit of FreshWorks, apart from being the sponsors here at PolarSeven. So we recently changed name from FreshDesk to FreshWorks because we've now got big ambitions. We're providing SaaS for different teams. It could be sales teams with Fresh Sales or software, right? FreshService for IT service desk teams and DevOps teams, and well, FreshDesk. We've also released an HR suite called Fresh Team. 100,000 customers globally. Big companies also in the region, being Harvey Norman using us for their customer support, Salmat using us for their IT service desk, PolarSeven also using us for their IT service desk. Yeah, growth, pretty good growth, but being an investor funded company, we'd always want to aim for the stars. Yeah, I guess I'll stop with that. So Axel, Tiger Global, Capital G, and Sequoia being investors at FreshWorks. Yeah. That was pretty fast.
That was quick. It was only like 5-10 minutes. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yep.
So when you talked about this API compliance issues, right? Don't care initially when you provision or construct the systems when you're in that phase.
Yep.
Later on, when these compliances until later on comes, right? So the one way to mitigate that is to launch the compliance profiling tool if you're using Chef. So inspect profiles are free in the marketplace where you can promote 100 plus compliance standards where you can launch them on nodes or VMs and test it out much before that, rather than it comes and hit you then.
Yeah. What do you say? What is that product?
Chef Inspect. It's open source.
Have you gone into PCI compliance anytime?
Yes, yes.
What do you do?
So I work as an DevOps consultant. Okay.
Cool. Any more questions?
Just in terms of the integrations, what tools the Chargebee can be integrated? Like Jira, Confluence, etc.
So Chargebee is the subscription software, while FreshService is the service desk that they use. So yeah, service desk integrates with Jira, integrates with, actually it should also monitor your AWS instances, also with CloudWatch integration. Yeah, so over a 30 inbuilt integration.
Cool. Any more questions? Cool. Sure, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.